Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Tri-Merit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today, our guest is Katie Thomas. Katie is the owner of Leaders Online, which is a marketing, and she can correct me if I get this wrong, but a marketing company that supports both the accounting profession and, as she calls it, B2A, business to accountants.
Yes.
I think I got that right. Well, Katie, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Hi, Randy. Thanks for having me. I'm so privileged and honored to be on your podcast.
Well, you and I met for the first time feels like a few weeks ago. I think maybe it's a month plus now, but what was that, at Engage, right?
Yeah, we met at Engage and you were having some sort of we won't call it sketchy. You're having a little side conversation with Terrell. So I'm sure you guys are up to good things and I'm excited to see what deal you were working on.
Yeah, so Terrell Turner, great guy, good friend of mine. He's actually on our advisory committee for the Unique CPA conference, Bridging the Gap. And he's also going to be speaking there, and I think even moderating the panel. So anytime I can be around Terrell and capture some of what he's doing and have him rub off on me, I'll be part of it. And you were being interviewed by him on a podcast there as well.
Yeah, Terrell, he's awesome. He just has so much knowledge when it comes to accounting firms, growing them, scaling them, everything. So I recommend anyone listening now, definitely check out Terrell.
Terrell checks a lot of the boxes of things I like talking about. One, he has a niche practice. Two, he's out educating, sharing his knowledge. I was doing a webinar at another conference he and I were both at, Scaling New Heights. He came into my presentation. I had a 2-hour presentation on mental health and burnout in our profession. And I was just talking about the importance of building a niche practice when he walks in, and I got to point to him and say, that guy that just walked in, Terrell, look at him. In the last 2 years, he's built a practice from scratch to 200 law firms that he's dealing with. That's the importance of, one, his digital marketing, and two, developing a niche practice. So that might be a good segue into us talking about what your journey into the profession, and then we'll get into Leaders Online. So why don't you give us some background on you and the business?
Yeah, so my journey with marketing as a whole started at a super young age. I grew up with a dad that was an entrepreneur, and I really had that entrepreneurial spirit as well. I mean, I was doing everything I could to earn money, dog sitting at 9 years old. I was giving horseback riding lessons when I was 12. I was designing my first website, if we even go back, at 9 years old on
Wow.
Microsoft Publisher, if people remember that platform. And then let's see, at 16, I was doing cold calls. I was doing SEO, Google Ads. And so I really dipped my feet into marketing years ago. And I always loved marketing. But when it came time to go to school and be like, okay, you need to pick a profession, I knew that I wanted to go into some sort of business career and hopefully own my own business someday, but that's not exactly a degree. And people said accounting is the language of business. So if you're good at math, this could be a good path to go down. And so I took accounting. I loved it. I loved how everything balanced, but I never really saw myself becoming an accountant as the traditional accountant. But, you go through undergrad, you get that accounting degree, and the next thing is well, you could go ahead and get your master's and take the CPA exam. And I thought, you know what, why not? I don't think it ever hurts to have letters behind your name. And I thought this is a great challenge. I love challenges. So I went ahead, got my CPA, and of course, then you have to work to not just fulfill the education and the exam requirement, but also the experience requirement. And so I went to work for one of the big 4 firms. And while I was there, I just really loved marketing. But I noticed that a lot of the managers, senior managers, and even the partners, they did not like marketing and they did not like business development. And whenever I'd have conversations with people that were on the partner track, marketing and business development, that was like, that's something they're really not looking forward to. And so I thought, you know what, if there's this much of a pain point around marketing and business development at these big firms, what does it look like for the smaller firms out there? And so whenever I left and decided I'm going to take a chance on my hypothesis that, hey, there are some ways I could help these firms, that's what I did. I just jumped into it and we started working with smaller firms. Now we have firms that they are still pretty small, like maybe there's one partner and they have a handful of staff, and then we have some that are a lot bigger. But it's such a privilege because I love this industry, I love the work I do, and ultimately I love the impact that together we're able to make, because we're able to help the firms reach more people, solve more problems, and in turn it just, the economy, creates more momentum for everyone.
Yeah, everything you just said is the way I feel about what I'm doing in our profession too. I love everything I do. I love every day I do it. We're helping people, and so the cool part is, and I didn't know this ahead of time, is that you came out of the profession, you've lived it. I don't know if I would have wanted to live the Big Four experience that you did. I don't know how. Besides the lack of marketing, how was that overall experience?
It was good in a sense that you are around really smart people.
Mm-hmm.
I had some wonderful managers and senior managers and even partners that I got to work alongside, and they were super inspiring and motivating. And had there been maybe a different role there, for example, I asked, like, could I go into a business development role, or would I have to, go all the way down the partner track? And they basically were like, looked at me like I was crazy and like, no, there's no role for you unless you want to go down that track. But had there been different opportunities for me, maybe I would have stayed. However, it just ultimately, I looked around and I saw like the work that those above me were doing. And it was like, this is not the career path that I want to take. It doesn't mean it's wrong for some people,
Right.
but it wasn't for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I love what you just said there, because one of the things is we don't have to do what everybody else is doing. And someone else's success is not our success.
Right.
And I think too often we just think, hey, this is the path I need to go, and I just got to power through it and see, get to the next, 40 years and retire, rather than following your passion. And I love the fact that you decided your passion was this business development, marketing, going out, and you didn't have that opportunity internally. So you took advantage and you went out and did it yourself. And I think that's a great lesson for people. Follow your dreams, follow your passions is so important. So let's dig into then Leaders Online. You're working with accounting firms and businesses that support accounting firms. Give us a little more. What are the services that you offer?
Yeah, so we focus heavily on social media. We also do PR, websites, and some other forms of content marketing. But our main focus is just following where the attention is of the ideal clients of the firm or the company that we're working with. And so today, where attention is, it's different. It's not the same as it was 5, 10 years ago. And the sooner that firms can realize that and CPAs can realize that, then they can lean into actually creating a marketing plan that works, because what always works, unfortunately, it just doesn't anymore.
Yeah, and you said this earlier, and I meant to mention this, but you couldn't go down the marketing path or business development path unless you were down the partner path. I don't understand. I really don't get why partners have to be the business development people. That I don't, for most of them, it's not even their personality, probably. And for us, through with Tri-Merit, I mean, we have probably 20 people in business development. They're not partners. That's what they're out doing, because they are the ones that know how to talk to people to go generate the business. And so from your standpoint, the firms you work with, are they changing their mindset that, hey, we don't have to be just the sales team. We can do things different. Obviously they bring in you as an outside consultant to do marketing. Do you see any internal changes that they may be doing in general, or are they pretty much, hey, partners are the ones developing business?
I think it depends on how old of a firm it is or how new they brought up like new partners. For example, I was just talking to a firm right before we got on this interview, and he was like, hey, I just hired my first sales representative. And so, like, hearing that, it's like firms are making a change, but this partner, the firm I was talking to, he bought his firm pretty recently, and he was coming in and he's, doing a transition, and he said, yeah, one of the first things I did was I hired a salesperson. I got a CRM. And so new leaders, they are definitely changing and shaking things up. And then I will say, like, people who are going out and starting their firm, I think for those, a lot of times they are a little bit different than a traditional accountant, and their personality is probably a bit more business development oriented, in that, hey, if I'm going to start a firm and I'm doing this from the ground up, hopefully I have some sort of desire to want to go out and connect and build relationships, knowing that ultimately, like, my business depends upon that until I get to the point where I can bring on additional help.
Yep.
So I think it kind of depends, but we are seeing a shift, and it's a great shift.
I think so. There's so many times that I see these, and I'm going to generalize, but older, mature firms maybe just set in their ways, and this is how it has to be. And these younger, and I think you just mentioned younger startup firms, just more flexible, more unique ideas. Friends of mine, Kenji Cormano and Matthew May from Acuity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have an outbound sales team. I mean, that is just, and they took their cue from the client base that they work with. I just think that is so cool to see people doing things different ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look to people like you just mentioned, like Kenji, they're doing incredible things. And it kind of goes back to what we said before. Like, you can't be afraid to blaze your own trail or do what other people aren't necessarily doing that's standard. And just because it's always been done one way doesn't mean that there's a better way, or even if it's not better for everyone, it can be better for you. That's ultimately like what makes, I think, this job and this profession so fun. Is there's a lot of ways to approach it. There's a lot of things that we can do. Like, I'm now in marketing. There's so much opportunity. And so, like, leaning into those passions, what you really like, you desire, and like, don't be afraid to just put yourself out there. Try something else.
No, I agree completely. So let's talk about that then. What do you see in these maybe, more forward-thinking firms? And I'm using that as an example, but all firms. What are the things working now from a marketing standpoint? What are you seeing? What are you promoting? What are you helping companies with that are really having the most impact?
Yeah. So a lot of times people will say, like, hey, what is the best marketing strategy for me? And when you really dig into that question, it's asking, how do I get more of the right attention from the right people? Because maybe it is a new client, but as we know, a lot of accounting firms as of today, they're not necessarily struggling for clients. So maybe it's they're looking for new team members. Maybe they're looking for a referral relationship that can send them more of the right clients. Maybe they want to get attention from existing prospects that didn't need their services right now. So it's marketing and getting attention. It's just so much more than attracting an abundance of new clients. And so whenever you think about this and, like, you actually dive into what is the right marketing strategy, it's who are you trying to reach? Where are those people getting their information? And how are those people making decisions? And today, when you think about the internet, it's matured and it's really impacted the way that people are making their decisions and how they're consuming information. So if we think about today, a lot of people, they're listening to podcasts like this. They're on social media. They're at events like Scaling New Heights or Engage or Try Merits Conference, and they're in Slack channels. But if we look at 5 years ago, a lot of these channels like social media, podcasts, they weren't as established. And so if you were, say, going to look for a new accountant, you might find one at a networking event, or you might ask a friend or a colleague, hey, or who are you using? Or maybe you did go to Google and you searched accountant near me. Now, today, people are on podcasts, they're on social media, they're, like we said, they're in at these events. And from there, they're hearing things, they're meeting people, they're getting their information. From there, once they say, hey, I was listening to Oh My Fraud, and I heard Randy, he was sponsoring it, and it sounds like they're doing some really cool things for accountants. Now I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to search them and I'm going to find out more about them because I was listening to that podcast. I got my information there rather than just, asking for a referral. And they're going to go to Google and they're going to search Trimerit and they're going to learn more. And your website ultimately is going to say, look, I captured this attention of this person. And so a lot of times firms, they're thinking about marketing strategies in terms of like what's just capturing the attention, such as Google searches or SEO or the ad they put up. The people who have actually already, there's some sort of demand for them, they go and they capture that demand. But what they aren't thinking about is actually creating demand where people's attention is currently at. So you have to take a broader approach and be like, okay, yes, capturing this demand of people who know about us or who know that they're searching for our services, we want to do that. We want to capture the people going to Google searching for us. We want to capture the people that are typing an accountant near me. But what about all of this attention that's in all of these other channels? We need to be showing up there, because if we aren't, your competitors they're going to be there. Your employees that you want to work with, their attention's there, and your competitors are going to take them. And so too much emphasis is put traditionally on just capturing demand versus creating demand.
Yep. And so there's some people I know that I think have done, and you're the expert. I'll ask you if you know these people and how you think they're doing. But, some people that like are going to be at Terrell Turner's, we already talked about him. I mean, the demand that he creates just, I think, is probably through the roof, just with all his being out there. Also, Brandon Hall, are you familiar with Brandon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ideas of what he's doing that you've seen out there?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a great job. He produces a ton of content. I know he used to be on Bigger Pockets a lot.
Yep.
That's perfect. He went where the attention was, gave value. He has his newsletter. He has a course. And then he also has someone else at his firm, I believe Thomas, that produces a lot of great content as well. And so they're out there. They're not just, available for the people that are aware of them. They're actually creating demand in a market and in a space where people aren't aware of them.
Yeah, creating demand is something. When I've talked to him, it's like, he generates 250 leads a month and he gets to pick and choose which new clients and anybody that doesn't know Brandon, he deals with the real estate industry is basically his client base. In fact, I think the Real Estate CPA might be a website of his, but also I think hallcpa.com as well. But yeah, he just creates this demand through his online marketing and being in the place and generating the demand rather than waiting for people to come to him. From that standpoint, do you help people set up podcasts or webinars, or are there anything like that? Or is it more just but the online presence through websites and other things? What are the types of things that you use to create that demand?
Yeah, so we create the content. We'll actually go and manage the social media profiles. Like, we will pretend that we are you and go out and comment on other people's posts, have conversations in the inbox. So actually start real conversations, not spammy bot ones that build relationships. We are distributing all the content. We're also like on the specialized platforms like Bigger Pockets. We manage profiles there. We will help you get in touch with other content creators. So, for example, if you serve law firms, we can help you find other coaches and people that are also serving law firms so that we can help you get in front of their audience. It's thinking bigger picture today and like how can you truly be a resource to your niche. So niche, I love that you were talking about a niche
Yes.
earlier. So important.
Yep. I was going to ask you about that, what you thought about niche. And did you only say niche because I did, or are you a niche rather than a niche?
I'm a niche person, not a niche person.
I'm a niche person as well. So is this any advice you give to people when you're out there marketing, that if you have a niche, it's easier, I can do more, there's more content we can share, there's more knowledge we can share because you have this expertise? Is that anything you discuss with them, or it just helps when they are a niche?
So we require them to at least have a marketing niche or marketing niches. It's okay if you say our firm, if I go to your homepage and you serve multiple, but if you're just an accounting firm, just a CPA firm, why is anyone going to pick you? And more importantly, when you're talking about marketing, no one can find you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the same as everyone. And so we need something compelling that makes you stand out, shows that you're actually an expert, allows someone to consume that content and be like, that speaks to me, rather than, oh, I'm just a business owner. It's like, business owner isn't going to connect with that. They want you to call them out and be very specific to them.
Yep. And so Brandon obviously does a good job. Terrell, who we've talked about twice already, deals with law firms. And it was funny because he made a switch. He was restaurants. And then all of a sudden he showed up as the law firm accountant. And he's done a great job with that. I can name a bunch of people that even larger firms that I deal with. There's one, John Sensiba, who I just saw last week. I think they're just changing the name of their firm to Sensiba. It was Sensiba Sanfilippo, but he has, and they're a 30, 40, $50 million firm now. And he has a philosophy that they won't service an industry unless they have somebody internally that is passionate about that industry, because that passion, and you've mentioned passion before, is so important. Is that, I guess, from that standpoint, passion, obviously, you have passion for what you're doing. I have passion for what I'm doing. I think it just makes everything we do so much more fun. I assume passion comes in big when you're dealing with marketing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen firms that say we want to specialize in working with doctors. And when you're like, okay, why?
Mhm.
There's no story behind it. It's just, well, they've got a lot of money to pay us. And that's literally it. I mean, it sounds funny saying that out loud, but people literally make decisions like that. And how do you think their marketing efforts go? They fall flat because they're not passionate about what they're doing. They don't care about the industry. They're not excited by it. You have to be passionate and excited about what you're doing, I believe, to be successful at it long term.
Yep. Oh, for sure. So let's talk real quick then about, because, looking at your website, I see you talk about coming up with a 12-month marketing plan. You want to explain that to us a little bit? Why a year out, or what the plan is like, or?
Yeah. So whenever we create this 12-month marketing plan, we're really looking at where are you at today? Where do you want to be? And what are your resources like? So how much time do you have? How much money do you have? What are your skill sets like? And depending upon those, we're going to create this plan to help you get to where you want to go. And sometimes that means that we need to start with updating your website. Sometimes that means, hey, you've already got a great website and you've got some traffic to it, so we're going to lean into that. Sometimes that means you don't really have anything started, and we can go and we can get some quick wins by having you really niche down on social media. I just said niche, by the way, rather than niche. I always say niche. So
I confused you before.
That question got in my head.
Yeah.
But so it really depends upon the firm and their goals, and then also their niche of like how we can help them reach their goals. Why is it a year? Because marketing takes time.
Yep.
A lot of people just want to flip a switch and have leads flowing in. But whenever you think about who you buy from, who you do business with, and especially if it's something as sensitive as your financial data, that's often not going to be just a let me do a Google search and I'm immediately buying from you today, especially if you're some specialized practice. Now, of course, someone like Brandon Hall, if you come across him, he clearly is really credible. And yeah, you might be ready to sign up pretty quickly, but think about how much time that took for him to build that up. And so it's important to be realistic in what you can accomplish in what time. And the great thing is with marketing is if you do it right, there's a snowball effect where, yeah, you might have to put in some time to get things going, but when you're doing it right, it's like I said, the snowball effect, it's going to speed up and it's going to lead to quicker results over time.
Yep. And we've seen that. And I'm no marketing expert. We started Tri-Merit without really a marketing plan in place, probably. Not probably, definitely. But we early on realized, at least from a marketing standpoint, that what we need to do is we needed to go to CPA firms and educate them on what we do, and then build those relationships. And then that would start to snowball. Now, no official marketing plan. I knew it would take a while because relationships aren't built overnight, but we've seen that. And we've gotten much better with the market. I mean, we have, what do we have? 6 or 7 full-time people in marketing now. And we've seen that snowball effect that, we've had tremendous growth. And I think a lot of it is we have a huge presence, it feels like, online, and people know who we are. So that helps. And we have I think we have a good message. You may look at it and say, Randy, there's so many things you can do better. Let me give you some advice. So that you don't have to do that now. I'm not asking for free advice, but I am promoting the fact that getting a good marketing plan in place is so important.
Randy, I'm curious, what inspired you to start creating this online presence?
It's funny. It wasn't even intentional on my part. And I don't know if you mean me online present or our team online present, because they kind of go together. So we hired our very first full-time marketing person about 4 years ago. And she came in and started just doing more whatever SEO, looking at and putting more blogs out and things like that. But then she came up with an idea for, we're going to do a podcast. And I'm like, okay, great. And you're going to host it. I go, what? I'm not hosting a podcast. What are you talking about? But the podcast, this unique CPA has become, I'm going to say the word wrong, ubiquitous. It's tied to TriMerit.
Yeah.
And that, I think, really started it. Once the podcast got out there, once I got to talk to so many cool people like yourself and the 120 other guests I've had on so far, and just sharing their knowledge, that gives us credibility that we're out there to help. Because I'm not out there talking about tax credits and incentives on the podcast really ever, maybe a couple episodes, but we're out there to help the industry. And if I should think, this is my philosophy, if we show that we're out there to help the industry, I think that's why we start to get recognition. So I had no intention of doing it. This came about. Now we have, like I said, like 6 or 7 full-time people in marketing, and they are constantly putting content out that I think is at least keeping us in front of the audience that we try to be attached to.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's just interesting to hear from people like yourself that a lot of times they will say like it wasn't necessarily intentional from day one whenever you started, this content creation, but you just led from the right spot and had the right intentions. That's ultimately like what works whenever you show up to serve and you add value. It's not like your content that's a sales pitch, that's what's really adding value. It's actually leading from a place where you want to help people. And so that mindset shift of how to approach your marketing is really important whenever you're doing any sort of marketing, whether it's actually like doing a podcast or creating content for social media or content for your website. Has to be valuable to the person consuming it, or else they're going to leave and not consume it at all.
Yeah. From day one, when we started TriMerit, and I'm a CPA, I came out of public accounting, just like you. When we started this and we decided that our business, model was going to be go to the CPA firm. That's where we're going to go. And then they'll send us to their clients. And it was like, I know CPAs don't want to be sold to. I can't go out there and sell them. I just have to share knowledge, educate them, show them why this is beneficial to their clients, why they're going to be the hero in their clients' eyes.
Mm-hmm.
When they bring, $100,000 of tax savings that is so complicated, they probably can't do internally. But if they team up with us and they feel comfortable that we are going to be servicing their client the way it should be serviced, our philosophy is, we don't want to be the hero. You're the hero. We're just there to support you. That seems to have worked for us.
I'd say so. Seems like it's working great.
Yep. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I love I honestly I keep saying it like probably, I am in the marketing team. I am a marketing team member. That's what I do, even though it doesn't feel like it to me. I just go out and talk. If there's anybody out there that really wants to start putting a marketing program in place, seeing the importance of it, talking about the people we talked about today, it's been so beneficial to them. How would you suggest they jump in? What advice would you give somebody looking to do this?
Yeah, the first thing is to not be afraid to step into the unknown and try something that you've never done. So I think a lot of times people see marketing and they're like, I'm an accountant, I can't do marketing. But marketing is just about adding value to an audience. And so anyone can do it. Check out some of those people that we mentioned, like Terrell or Brandon. I also share a ton of tips and strategies on my social media profiles, on my website, under my blog. So there are a lot of ways to get started, and you can just take baby steps, or you can always, reach out to a professional to help guide you through that process. But I truly believe anyone can become a marketer. You just have to start. Yeah, just do it. No one is going to hold you back more than yourself.
Right. And things that I didn't mention, you know what you're talking about. You are well respected in this profession. You've been on the Practice Advisor 40 under 40, top 50 women in accounting. I'm sure there's a lot more accolades out there that I haven't mentioned. And I just noticed 43,000 followers on LinkedIn. So people like to listen to what you say, and you putting your content out there is obviously getting a lot of traction as well, that people are being educated by. You're adding value, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So 2 final things I want to talk about. One, this is a question everybody gets. We've been talking about business, talking about marketing, which I never knew how much I would be in marketing. And this is amazing to me, but I really like what we're doing. We talked about that, but that's, again, not necessarily who you are. It's part of who you are, but what do you enjoy doing that isn't work related? What are your outside of work passions?
Yeah, so of course, hanging out with my family. I have a 1-year-old daughter that's amazing. And so my husband and I, we love just doing anything with her, spending time with her, also seeing friends, but I'm a big horse person.
Mm.
So I grew up riding horses, showing horses, and I still ride horses today. So family, friends, horses, that's what you'll catch me doing outside of work.
Are you familiar with Heather Satterley by any chance?
Yeah.
All right. She's a big horse person as well. I don't know if you've had discussions about this before.
No, I did not know that she's a horse girl. I'm going to have to reach out and have a conversation about that.
Oh yeah, she's big time. And she and I were just talking last week, and she said, like, because we were talking about, mental health, something I talk about, and she says part of my mental health is just, and she says, out working in the barn, shoveling horse crap, and because I get to free my mind, and I didn't use this. We're trying to be a clean show here, so I didn't use the word she's used at the time. But she says, they think I'm crazy, but that's what I like doing. I'm just there with the horses. I get to clear my mind. I get exercise, and I don't have to think about anything else. And so, yeah, reach out to her she really loves it.
Yeah, that's why I have stuck with horses my whole life, is because I feel like whenever I'm riding, I'm never distracted. It's like you can't be on your phone.
Right.
Your mind has to be thinking about what you're doing, and it's like bliss.
Yep. All right. Well, that's great. I love your outside of work passions. So if anybody wants to hear more, want to get more information on you, on leaders, on seeing what you're doing, and hopefully reaching out to you for help, because I think what you do is extremely important to every firm out there, how can they get a hold of you?
So I'm Katie Thomas, CPA, on all social media platforms. My favorite social media platform is LinkedIn, so send me a DM there, but you're welcome to also reach out to me on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you're hanging out. And then you can also, if you want to learn more about working together, just go to leaders-online.com and you can book a call there.
Well, Katie, this was awesome. I have known of you for years. I was grateful to be able to meet you a month ago, and I'm glad we scheduled this and got this conversation recorded, because this, I think, is very important. So appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Randy. I appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us today on The Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on The Unique CPA. Professionalproductions.net